Anyway, so how was your Christmas?
So that's the episode we're doing.
No, we're not.
No, it's fine.
We can scrap that.
We could do that.
Let's go back.
My Christmas itself was good. My Christmas time, on the other hand, like the Christmas season itself, not so bueno. Yeah. How was yours?
You know, I try to every year as it rolls along, I try to get as much meat out of the Christmas season as I can, just because it's colder and there's lights, and so we put the kids in the truck and hot chocolate, and we drive around looking at Christmas lights. And I want to do that every day, but then it turns out there's just the kids can only stand a couple sessions of that. But like every night, as soon as it's dark, I can just sit in the truck and slowly drive.
Me too. That was on the docket. We didn't get to do that, but I do love that. What I did last year, and the girls begged me for this, was you let them go to sleep, kind of, or like start to sleep. You put them down, and then like a few minutes later, you wake them up. It's like, hey, let's go do something special.
Oh,
and then they're
that's
like,
smart.
this is the greatest day of our life. It's just like elevated a normal experience, because now it feels like we're doing something abnormal.
Mm-hmm. That's special. That's really clever. I should do that.
My dad would do that all the time growing up.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be like, put me down, or put my brother down, and then he'd wake me up and be like, let's go to a midnight showing of a movie.
Wow.
And I was like, I love that.
That's special. That actually is really magical.
It was magical.
I like
it
that.
was wonderful. They don't really have midnight showings anymore. And I want to do that with my kids. I think Emmy's getting the age where I can do that now. She'll start remembering.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was always like just the best. I remember some of the fondest memories as a kid doing that. My dad doing that.
With travel and all that, the season goes by quickly. But, and then Christmas comes and goes, and then it's January. And
December is such a dopamine high.
Yeah.
January is just like, ugh.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
And then here it actually got cold. So January 1st, welcome to 2025, frigid.
Freeze. Yeah. It went from literally December 31st, like, is it the 31st?
It was 70 degrees.
30th?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I had a t-shirt on.
Yeah.
And then the next day, like 17 degrees.
It's West Texas for you, but.
Yeah.
So it's like 2025. You're a quarter of the way through the century.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, but we spent most of our holiday season, not most, but a good chunk of our holiday season near Christmas in the hospital. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that especially, we don't have to talk about that, but I think one of the things that I've tried to do, because I think it was one of our previous guests that sort of mentioned that if you know your brother, you don't have to ask if they need something. You would know. And it's sort of, that really rang in my head. And so it's sort of like, well, I don't know if you need something, but then I'll just be there, to know that if you needed anything.
Be available to know.
Yes. If you need anything and you want to talk, because I think I was going through, like my mom had breast cancer a few years ago. It's still in remission, which I'm thankful for. But during the time, it was hurtful. I don't know why it was hurtful, because people were just asking how my mom is, and they're showing that they care and that they care for me. And
Yeah.
but then it was just, don't talk about it. I'd rather ignore that right now. I'd rather come and just be in the assembly and be done with it. But their intentions were absolutely beautiful and pure. And so I take that experience and I push that on to, like, for instance, when I call you and I said, hey, do you need anything? Is everything okay? Hopefully it is. We're praying, and thankful for whatever develops. But so anyway, I just remember people asking me about my mom, and I couldn't do anything to help my mom other than just, being there spiritually, and then as a community, having a community of support.
I kind of felt the same way with Paige, almost losing your wife, which is crazy to say, but like you feel helpless.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't do anything but like be there, support her, and hold her hand, and like that. Everyone was so nice, still is just really loving the way Christ is loving, and everyone asking me not just how Paige is, but how are you, like you were saying, and um, sadly, I just am not a very emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just is not. It's just hard for me to get there, and so sometimes I think people are looking for something like that. That emotional bonding. Hey, I'm here. You let it all out, and I know you're going through a lot. Which all of that is true. Nothing you do is going to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just like the only time it's coming out is really if I'm by myself, you know.
Yeah.
But and that's nothing against anybody. It's just me being dumb, I guess. But
No, I wouldn't say dumb. I just that's where you find the most comfort is you,
yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe even you and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm a lot like that. I like being alone. For the most part, there are times where I want to be around people.
Yeah, it's a situational for sure. And I was very just in awe. I mean, while I was in the hospital and after, I got over. I'm not kidding. Literally over hundreds of texts.
Wow.
And so I can't thank everyone enough for all their support. Super humbling, and so it was just a good example every time that happens to say, "Wow, this is what how Christians should be."
Yeah.
And they were, and that's really good. And yeah, well, it's just crazy because what Paige had is just totally out of left field.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting it. She's already had 2 normal pregnancies, and the third one was going as expected. Like, this is easy. We got it down. And to be honest, I was probably a little cocky. Maybe like a little too confident. Um, didn't think that at the time, but hindsight's 2020. Because now when you're like now all of a sudden not confident at all, now you're like, yeah, shouldn't have been that confident. But learn your lesson, I guess. And God has a way of humbling you. And then
I don't think that's wrong. It's not hard
yeah.
to feel that, especially you're on your third,
Yeah.
and the first 2 went really smooth, and
Yeah,
everything's great.
maybe I was also just very chill, like or took some things for granted for sure. But yeah. Anyway,
I guess
I'm
other
not
than
going to go
your,
into like detail Paige's situation, but
no, I think other than like attitude, what you don't necessarily need to change anything, but I definitely something that people can relate to.
mm-hmm.
I mean, we felt that with our pregnancies, just sort of everything's going great, and then
Yeah.
suddenly it wasn't,
Yeah,
and then it's like, well, what do I do?
yeah, it is
And
all of a sudden.
yeah,
Yeah, with pregnancy especially.
well, and in those times, I guess it would come down to how people react to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for instance, cancer diagnosis, like your worst day ever.
Yeah.
Someone you love passes away, and you get that news. Police knock on the door, phone call rings from jail. Like your worst day ever. How do you react?
Mm-hmm.
What are you supposed to? What does the Bible say that we should?
Well, I think, and I had that realization in the hospital. Don't panic. That was kind of. It's not really a realization. It's just like a thought that came to mind. At the time I'm reading scripture. I'm also reading another, just other books too, because reading itself helps me with my stress, lower some of my stress. So I read when I'm more stressed, and I feel like it just clears my thoughts. Like I'm in the story right now. I'm in the text, so I'm not thinking about everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I'm reading about the scriptures, Psalms. Rely on God. He is your fortress. He is your refuge, your strength. I'm reading also. I think we talked about the book King Henry V at the time too. And he's a super cool guy, and he's like odds are stacked against him, and doesn't look like he's gonna make it out. And his like whole thing is like, don't panic. And I think when you have God by your side, yeah, don't panic. It was also comforting was to know like God is with you, especially when you have a bunch of other Christians there with you. You realize, yeah, God is with you. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to. It did. And everything is stable now. And everything is good. So happy with the technology. The doctors were on point, did everything that they should. It was so nice. So, yeah.
Wow. That's amazing to hear because it's one of those things where you almost feel helpless. That's how I felt with mom's cancer.
I guess, yeah, when you feel helpless, it's easy to just panic about things and they get in your head.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just a good constant reminder to say, like, that's not going to do anything good.
Yeah.
In this moment, I need to be able to take in what the doctors are saying because that's at least one thing I can do. Well, she can't.
Yeah.
And, be able to be there, make those calls. So, she needs someone that's stable, essentially. Not someone who's also freaking out.
And so do you.
Yeah. But when you're getting bad news, your baby's going to be exposed to radiation. It's easy to panic in that sense. So, yeah.
Mm. Well, and then the reliance on the one who's in control.
Yeah, I think you're right. He is in control. And you can worry about the future. I know I'm still worrying about the future. I'm certainly concerned about the future. But if he's in control, then you have to realize he has a plan. Well, maybe not a plan, but he has an understanding beyond yours, for sure. Yeah. So it was good to come. It was a good. It was once we came out of that, it was good to just have Christmas and be with family. We got out of the hospital Monday, and then Tuesday and Friday, not Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday and Wednesday were Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So it was good.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we're here for you if you need anything.
Thanks, man. Thanks. You guys are already here, so that's good. That's good. And it's good to be back on the podcast. I don't want to be a downer.
I've missed the podcast.
I have too. We took a little break, and so it's good to be back. Funny thing, I think I was telling Caleb this, I'll tell you too. The funniest thing was the nurses. Loved all the nurses. All the nurses were really supportive, very helpful. But there's a difference between labor and delivery nurses and ICU nurses. I mean, labor and delivery nurses, this is where we had to go originally because she's pregnant. They know everything there is about babies and all that stuff. Great. They're knowledgeable on that. That's their thing. But as soon as it came to all the other stuff that was happening, they didn't quite know. They had to call on the ICU people who are, they're just about keeping you alive. They're a little more rough. The labor delivery nurses, they have the hokas. They have the big Christmas sweaters with the blinking, Christmas tree and the makeup and the hydro jug. And the ICU nurses are with Crocs trying to figure things out.
North Face and Crocs.
Where? Yeah. They're where is that bucket of pee I just drained?
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Labor delivery room, you have a queen size bed. Down in the ICU, you're like, where's your toilet? It's right there next to your bed. Okay. This is where we're at. This is
Don't
how
try to
dire
get
it's
out of
gotten.
that bed or ring me before you try to get out of that bed
for
or
real.
I will kill you. It's
Call,
okay.
don't fall.
Yes.
Call, don't fall. I love that.
That's it. Call, don't fall. Especially you're strapped into all those machines.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a little bit of trauma. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, anytime.
But
Gotta laugh about these things.
if that can bring anybody comfort, I think that's one of those things about experiences that we can talk about, and the reliance on the one who's in control and the one who showers blessings on us and who made us.
I realize also sometimes the best memories are the ones you don't want to relive because they're the moments you grow but you hurt the most is at the same time. So you're happy that you've experienced them, but you want to relive them. And so sometimes we got to go through the fire. But, yeah. But with that, go so. If you want to know more about the Bible or you have any questions, our email is in the description below. You can DM us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for a church family or you're in the Lubbock area, we invite you to come visit and hang out with us in Milwaukee. We love for you to find a church who practices the love of Christ.